216, a link to the Randomizer podcast. I am your host, not Fear Agent, today. I'm someone a little bit different here, so we're going to have our great episode here where we get to actually ask Fear Agent anything. So we got a whole bunch of questions from the community, and Fear was nice enough to let me jump in on it here and ask these questions to him, so we can ask the man exactly what's going on with himself and everything else in the league there. How you doing there, Fear?
I'm doing great. This is a pleasure to be here with you.
Yeah. So, well, we got a whole bunch of stuff here. Should we just jump right in?
Yeah, let's do it. I also feel like I have to try to deepen my voice even more with you on the show. I feel like my voice is pretty deep anyways, but when I hear you talk, I'm just like, damn, that sounds so good. Silky smooth and deep.
Man, people say that, and I have no idea what to do with that. Just because it's just like, this is just my voice, man.
It's just your voice, yeah. Just take it, accept it, let it simmer there.
Oh, I guess I should probably say who I am, right? Do you think people know who I am? That's true.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll just let everybody guess. All right, let's fire this. Let's fire this thing up here. I took the file that you sent with everybody's questions here, and I kind of broke them down as best I could into different sections, more or less. Okay. I've got, see, what do I got here? I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 sections here. I got art, I got game, I got podcast questions, and I got some just miscellaneous questions where I'm just kind of like, I don't know how you could fit this into anything.
Sure.
All right. So what do you want to start with, bud? What are you thinking here? Do we want to start with the art questions here?
Yeah,
game questions?
Let's do the art stuff.
All right, let's start with the art then. All right, so I guess first question here. I don't know who. Sorry now to everyone who sent in your questions. Unfortunately, the sheet did not have who this was. So
yeah,
it's
all anonymous to us. Right.
If I don't read your question, trust me, it's nothing against you. It's just maybe we didn't have time. But we've got I didn't even count how many there are, but there are few.
Yeah, there were a bunch of questions. Yeah.
Okay, so let's go for the first question here. So just basically, how did you first get started as an artist?
Well, I think like most artists, I just started drawing when I was a kid and never stopped. I was really into, as a kid, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cartoon. And so I would draw the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles all the time. And then my friend introduced me to comic books, specifically the X-Men, and that kind of took over my life. And so I just drew comics all the time, trying to be like Jim Lee and a lot of the early Image guys. And so I just, ever since I can remember, I've had a pencil in my hand and was always drawing. And then actually took a break when I was in high school. I didn't really draw much when I was in high school. But yeah, I'm just always drawing.
Yeah, makes sense there. So were there any specific comics that inspired you to develop your own art?
Yeah, I mean, the X-Men were probably the biggest ones. In the early 90s, they launched X-Men #1. I want to say it was in 1991. The original X-Men comic book was called The Uncanny X-Men, and they launched the new X-Men book with Jim Lee. And that comic ended up selling like 1 million copies or something like that. It was drawn by this guy named Jim Lee, who's now the publisher of DC Comics. And I remember seeing his art and just being like completely blown away. And so I spent so much time just trying to be like Jim Lee. And of course, as a 8, 9-year-old, obviously didn't look anything like it, but I guess I had something there, and just kind of always continued with it. So that was the big one, was the X-Men books.
So do you got a favorite series? I mean, you said X-Men there. Do you have favorite series, favorite character sort of thing?
Well, Wolverine was always my favorite for sure. There's I can never remember the comic book number. It's 280 something. There's a storyline called The Extinction Agenda. Okay. And this is actually before that X-Men #1. It was drawn by Jim Lee, and it has the X-Men versus the X-Men in this weird storyline.
Okay.
And it has the coolest drawing of like Wolverine jumping straight at you with like bloodshot white eyes and just like the most menacing. I just remember seeing that as a kid and thinking, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. And that one wasn't necessarily my first comic book, but it's the one that I kind of always go back to as like, as my favorite, or the first one that I can really remember that affected me in a way where I was like, whoa, this is unlike anything I've ever seen before. My actual favorite comic book of all time, though, is Batman Year One by Frank Miller and Dave Mazzucchelli. I think that's like the greatest comic book. Yeah.
I've looked at a little bit of this stuff. Like I got in, like, you know, when like Sin City dropped and stuff like that. You know, I got a little bit into that, but I don't even think I ever got into like too much of his Batman stuff. I got a little Dark Knight. The Dark Knight Returns is obviously the most famous comic that he's done. That one sold like 1 billion copies. But Year One wasn't drawn by Frank Miller. It was drawn by Dave Mazzucchelli. And it's like, I want to say it's only like 3 issues, but it's like for me, it's the comic book that takes advantage of the medium more so than any other book that I've seen. Because I feel like a lot of comic books try to be movies or TV shows, and they're kind of written like spec scripts almost, or like storyboards, or it just feels like they're trying to be something else. And Batman Year One feels like it's taken advantage of the medium, and I really, as an artist, really appreciate that. Okay, so what's the bigger interest for you when you were a kid then? Was that for art or for gaming?
That's tough. Probably art, because we couldn't afford a lot of games, so I didn't get to play a lot. I feel like we were always behind. Like I didn't get a Nintendo right away. I got a Nintendo because the first Nintendo's lifespan felt like it was pretty long. Was released like an 85 or something.
Yeah, it feels like it was 10 years long. Yeah,
it was really long, and so I got it like my first Nintendo when like the Super Nintendo was close to coming out. So I was always behind. So I was really into games, but art was definitely more my focus because all I needed was paper and a pencil, you know? So
I see.
Art was definitely more of what I was looking at and what I was doing to fill my time. But I was dreaming about playing video games at the same time, going to my friend's house and trying to play Super Mario 3 and all that.
What's like the first like game that really made it like an impact on you, do you think?
Oh, The Legend of Zelda. Probably Super Mario Brothers, because that was pretty groundbreaking for me. Just the first Mario game was kind of like the introduction, getting the Super Mario Duck Hunt combo
with the zapper and all that good stuff.
Yeah, that was pretty impactful. But I remember for my birthday getting the gold cartridge, Legend of Zelda, and just kind of being like super captivated by the entire world. Sucked at the game because it was really hard as a little kid.
Oh man, it's hard now. Are you kidding me?
I know, for sure. But there, like you think back then, there wasn't even like strategy guides, or there was nothing. And that game has like no direction. It's just kind of like go and find the stuff. So I played it a lot and died a lot. But for sure, that was the big impact for me was Legend of Zelda. But we'd rent video games a lot because, again, I'm old. And so, digital downloads and stuff wasn't really a thing. So you had to go to the video store and get your VHS movies, and you could rent, Nintendo games. And I remember renting lots of Nintendo games. Kid Icarus was a big one. Blaster Master. Yeah, that first console, I think, was pretty big in my formative years.
Question for you. You still have it?
I don't. That's the one thing that I'm not good at, is keeping my stuff. When I was done with it, I always used to just get rid of it and like move on to the next thing. And now that I'm older, I wish that I was more of a hoarder in that sense. Yeah, I don't have any of my original stuff.
That's too bad. I still have mine, but I don't actually know if they still work right now. I haven't even tried to plug them in and play any of the old games for years.
Yeah. I wish I kept them, but...
So when you kind of went from art and games and all of this stuff here, and when did you kind of get interested in movies and stuff?
Well, I wasn't super interested in movies. Like, again, we grew up pretty low income, and so we didn't have access to a lot of stuff. So we'd borrow VHSs and stuff or rent them occasionally, but my parents weren't really into movies, so I wasn't super into them. It wasn't until I saw the first Lord of the Rings movie in 2001, Fellowship of the Ring. That movie, similar to what I described with the X-Men comic book, when I watched that movie, I was like blown away. Like, whoa, the movies can be this good and this awesome and this like, and kind of cater to my like geeky sensibilities.
Yeah, right.
And, you know, it kind of opened the whole world up to me of like movies and film and the idea of like exploring movies as more than just like pure entertainment. Because then they released like the making of that movie. And I don't know if you're familiar with the appendices. They have like this extended edition version of The Lord of the Rings. It's like 6 DVDs. And it's like two of them are the movie because they're like extended cut. And then like 3 or 4 of them are just the making of. So it's like hours of making of in the Lord of the Rings movies. And that, again, the making of that movie like really blew me away in how much like love and care and like craft went into making those movies, especially because it was a fantasy movie. Oh, yeah. Which again speaks more to my like sensibilities. Because up until that point, fantasy movies were kind of treated as like not real cinema. You know what I mean? Like,
oh yeah, totally. Like you had like, I mean, like the 80s had a bit of it. And like I trying to think of like a big fantasy movie in the 90s. Like
I know, I can't think of. I think wasn't like Dungeons and Dragons in the 90s, and that movie was trash.
Jeremy
like,
Irons, yeah.
Yeah, it's like that's the kind of thing like He-Man back with Dolph Lundgren back in the day. It's like it's always treated. I mean, superhero movies are like that as well. Sci-fi movies obviously were able to expand a little bit more with like Terminator 2. I remember seeing Terminator 2 and being, you know, really intrigued by that. And The Matrix was a big one too.
Right, yeah.
But yeah, fantasy being treated as like not a joke was pretty important to me. And so The Lord of the Rings is still like my favorite. That trilogy is like my favorite movies. And that kind of, again, exploded my interest in like film and kind of got my love for creating. And I started creating comics again, and I created my own comic. It was called Dark Company back then, and then eventually Broken Legacy. And I've put out a couple issues of that since, but it was fantasy based and kind of based off that love that I had of Lord of the Rings.
So you put out your own comic area. Is there any place that if an interested party would wanted to go and take a look at it, yeah. Where would we find it?
There is, so Broken Legacy is available on Comixology. If you just Google Amazon's Comixology, you can find Broken Legacy. We did 2 issues of that. It's pretty old at this point. And then me and my friends that I went to school with ended up starting our own like independent comic book label. And we've all done work together on each other's books. Like my friend created this book called Mangoal, which is like a love letter to like 80s horror, like monster movies, like The Thing or things like that. And it's a story of a seagull who rips the arms off of a man and then uses them as his own arms.
That's amazing.
It's just Google Mangoal and you'll find the comic. I think I'm trying to think if our website's still up there. It might be stockpilecomics.com. Might be able to get you to it. And that has actually the Gumroad website, so you can download digital versions of these books. And Mangoal, I did the colors for the covers on that, and just the cover image alone that he drew in that color is like one of my favorite things. I wish he would make more of the book because they're super awesome. And then I had my friend who did another book called Forever Winter, and I did some backup stories on that. And another friend did a book called Return to Rander, and I did some work on that. So Broken Legacy is the only one that I've put out myself that I've fully drawn, but I've done a lot of work through the Stockpile Comics label. So you check that stuff out.
Yeah, that actually kind of leads into another good question here. So how did you get into like graphic design exactly? Like how long have you been doing it professionally and such like that?
Yeah, so graphic design. So, gosh, I have always been kind of interested. Okay, so this is gonna be kind of a long story, but this is my podcast, so.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is why everyone's here. They want to hear from you today. I'm just the guy asking questions.
Okay, so when I was in high school, I was in my own like rock band with my brother and some friends, and we were trying to put out some music and make some CDs. And I really was like obsessed with creating like album covers. But I was like, how do I make an album cover? I think this is like or late 90s.
Right.
So computers are still, not as common as they are now. Not everyone has computer, let alone Photoshop. But I was able to illegally download a version of Photoshop. This is probably like Photoshop 6, maybe 7.
Okay.
So very, very, very early. And I just started figuring out how to make album covers. And that's kind of was my goal of using Photoshop. But I just basically taught myself Photoshop in the late 90s illegally. And there was no like YouTube, so there wasn't like a bunch of tutorials on like, this is how you use Photoshop. I just like had to like kind of figure it out myself. So that was kind of like what kicked off the idea of like doing graphic design. At the time, I didn't think of it as graphic design, but that's kind of what it was. I ended up going to art school, a comic book art school called the Joe Kubert School of Cartoon and Graphic Art.
Cool.
I only went there 1 year. It was a cool school. I made a lot of friends, but you get like nothing out of it. Like you don't get a degree or anything. You get like a certificate that you graduated, and it's like super expensive. So I only went 1 year there. And so then I came back home. That was in New Jersey, and I'm from Washington. So I came back home after that, and I had like no job prospects. So I just I worked at like Sears, and I worked at like Best Buy, and I hated it. I am not a salesman, and I'm not into customer service. Like those two things that I don't like. But it's like a job that anyone can get. So I'm like working these jobs, and I'm just like hating it. And so then I started applying to like some places that are graphic design jobs, but nobody wants to hire me, even though I have like a portfolio, because I didn't have a degree.
Of course.
So I was like, well, I guess I got to go to school. So I went to a tech college, and so I'm doing like this stuff just to get a degree, and I'm learning about Photoshop and Illustrator and all this stuff. And it sucked because I basically knew what I was doing already. I was just going there so I could get a piece of paper that says I could get a job doing it.
Of course.
And so I'm there. And at the time, I'm playing Counter-Strike a lot. Counter-Strike Source with my brother. And we have a whole clan called the Mr. Clan. And we would do these LAN parties, because we're all in the Northwest, and we'd all get together and bring our computers and have big LAN parties. And one of the guys would always get sponsors for our LAN parties, because we'd have like 60 to 75 people coming to our LAN parties.
Oh, dang. So this is not a small occasion then.
No, it's a big group of people, and we're all friends, and we're all playing Counter-Strike together, and it's having a blast. And one of the sponsors was an energy drink, and they were looking for someone to do the website for their new energy drink. And I happened to build the website for our clan, right? So the guy that got the sponsor gave him my information, and this is while I'm at school trying to get this degree. And the guy offered me a job doing web design. And so while I'm in school, I get this job that it was like web design and graphic design. And I ended up not finishing the school and just taking that job. And I've been there ever since.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like if they're just going to start giving you money, you just go, thank you.
Yeah, totally. Like maybe I should have finished school because I was really close to finishing, but I was just like, God, I hate this stuff. I do not want to do it. And I'm already getting paid. I started part-time, and I've been there full-time since 2010. So gosh, 12 years full-time, 15 years as an employee. So it's gone pretty well. And I do like all the graphic design. I'm literally the only art person. It's a pretty small company, but I do all of the art for them. So any of the labels, it's a drink company. There's a whole bunch of different drinks and stuff, and that just kind of happened, and I've been doing it ever since.
Oh, that's great, but I mean, it's nice that it all kind of worked out with you, especially like moving across country and stuff. Like, oof,
it worked out. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. I have no complaints. At the time when I was working at Best Buy, though, I was super miserable. I hated that. I hated that job.
I feel like that's like a kind of a typical thing with a lot of people, either out of high school or out of college, you're going to get those, couple of retail jobs. Yeah. And at some point probably just kind of go, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah, totally.
This isn't fun.
I was there for a long, almost 5 years, I think. Because I would do the job, and then I started like part-time, then I made full-time, and I'm like, I don't have any prospects for a job. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to kind of go all in, and I'll do what they want, and I'll kind of be a rah-rah guy and try to impress my manager and, kind of put the extra foot forward. So maybe that I can move my way up in the company. And because I'm not like the best person at customer service, like I'm a very honest person.
Yeah, that's a problem sometimes.
It would kind of like, I'd kind of get in trouble or something like that. And I'd be like, fuck this. I'm done. I like all that work I was trying, like, get it. I'm done. I'm just going to put minimal effort because I'm tired of this crap. I remember, so I worked in the camera department and some lady brought in her, this is like when digital cameras were still pretty big. It's like, people didn't have like camera phones and iPhones and stuff. So somebody brought in their camcorder that they bought and they purchased somewhere else. And they're like, this thing is not taking very good pictures. And I'm like, yeah, it's not really made for pictures. The camera on this video camera that you bought, this DV video camera is, less than a megapixel. So it's going to kind of take crappy pictures. That's what I said, like verbatim. She complained because I told her that her camera takes crappy pictures. And that was kind of like one of those times where I'm like, really? You guys, I'm in trouble for that. She didn't buy it here. She didn't buy it here. And I didn't insult her. I just told her that the truth. And she didn't like the truth. So sorry. And I was just like, God, I hate this job so much.
Just gets all bent out of shape because she did something wrong. And then you had the temerity to tell her that, oh, this camera is not very good, miss.
Yeah, it's a video camera. It'll take good video, but guess what? At the time, it's not going to take very good pictures. Sorry.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Man, I do not miss doing customer service at all.
I hated it. I hated it.
I think I did the exact same thing at one point. I'd like tried to, I was like, all right, I'm gonna go and, I'm gonna make manager and all of this stuff. And then kind of made a part of it. And then I realized, this really sucks. And the pay is terrible.
It does.
Why am I doing this?
It's so bad. Yeah, I don't miss it at all.
Oh. Well, all right. Well, let's see here. Let's jump off of that. Let's kind of get into the main event, I guess. Here, let's talk a little bit. Let's talk a little game.
Sure.
So, but how? I think you ask everybody this question. So we got to ask you this question. So, how did you get into Rando?
Yeah, it was AGDQ, the Andy versus Christos Owens swordless match they did. And I think Vitor and Willard were on the couch. And at this point, I was watching a lot of Twitch and a lot of YouTube, mostly Super Mario World, Super Mario Maker stuff. It was, I think I found like so when I found Super Mario Maker, like the best thing about Super Mario Maker is you get to make levels and you want to share them, right? So it was like trying to find people that would play it. And that's how like Grand Pooh Bear and Barb and Carl Sagan and Pangea Panga and all these people kind of got their start on Twitch. They're really good at the game and they play people's levels. And so you'd always trying to like find streamers to play your levels and stuff. And that kind of turned me on to GDQ. And then I saw that Andy match versus Christos Owen. And I was like, wait a second. Link to the Past is like my favorite game. And there's a randomizer for it. That's the coolest thing I've ever seen. And so between then and like July, I kind of slowly learned about the game and kind of how to play it and stuff.
And just kind of, that's all she wrote right there.
Yeah.
Just once I got the hooks into you and then you're
once
done.
The hooks were there, it was like, never look back. I want to say my first race was like June or July of 2018. I did a little bit of practice offline, and I think I actually started with the Reddit, like asyncs, I think was the first thing that I played.
Oh yeah, I remember those. Right.
I think they still have them. I'm not sure. I haven't been to the Reddit in a long time, but yeah, I started because I wasn't sure how the whole racing thing, like how does that work? Right. And then I remember, trying to figure out SRL, and then I had to learn IRC, which that was a whole can of worms. Like took me forever to figure that out. And then once you kind of get going, you get going. But yeah, it took me a while because again, I'm old and not as familiar and tech savvy as a lot of these young bucks. But
I know the feeling there, man. Like the newer players with like freaking race time and just like the Twitch link ups, man. Y'all don't know how good you got it.
I know. Yeah. Yeah, I spent a lot of time on the SRL Discord. Also, something totally brand new. I had no idea what Discord was when it started. Trying to like get my name changed because when I first started in the community, I just used my actual real name, and then I was like, I don't really want to do that. So I went back to the name that I used for my Counter-Strike days, and
that explains it. I was always wondering where Fear Agent came from.
Yeah, Fear Agent's a comic book. There's a comic book called Fear Agent that I was a big fan of from back in the day, and it's just kind of always stuck.
That's always kind of one of those things. Is like, how do people choose their names? And there's always a story, and a lot of times it's kind of one of those. It was something I liked at the time.
Yeah, I just thought it was a cool name based off a comic book that I really liked. That was also kind of obscure, so it's not like I'm not named Spider-Man or something. You know what I mean? Like most people haven't heard of a Fear Agent, so.
Oh yeah, you throw me in there for sure. So what advice here would you kind of give to a new player? Like if they're starting it up now, because we were kind of teasing about how easy it is in these days to start the game. But like, what advice would you give to someone now?
Gosh, I don't even know what advice to give. Just make sure you're having fun. I think that's the most important thing. Like, don't worry about results. Take your time with worrying about results. Probably the biggest piece of advice, and something that I still need to learn, honestly, because like I really envy the people that can play the game and not race it because they just enjoy the game, right?
Yeah.
And I have this like stupid competitive streak in me that just has to win. Like I just want to win. And when I've been okay, it's when I don't care so much about the wins and losses. So if you can get there and you can play this game and not care so much about the wins and losses and just enjoy the game for what it is, because the game is great, then I think you'll be able to enjoy it more. So take it slow and find ways that can make the game enjoyable without, the win or loss really mattering.
Yeah, it's so hard to do.
It is. I mean, it is because it's what we're ingrained. It's a racing. That's kind of one of the things about NMG that I'm kind of jealous of. Is if you watch NMG runners play together, there's not that element of competition that's coming out as much. Yeah. Even though they are competing for the better times, it's more of like they're encouraging each other to get better at the game.
Oh, totally. Yeah, there's a lot more. I want to say lifting up. Of people. Like it's like, yeah, you're gonna get that 125. Yeah, you're gonna get that 124. You know, you keep at it, keep grinding, bud.
Yeah, and it's like if you do good, it has no bearing on my outcome, right? Like if you're grinding and you're doing well at the game, there's no bearing on my how good I am at the game. And it's obviously a little bit different since we are racing and there's a winner and a loser, but the sense of like, I don't know, caring so much about wins and losses. And maybe that comes from the tournaments too. I don't know. We have so many tournaments going on.
I mean, yeah, there's a lot of high stakes, right? Because like, I mean, if you're just doing like when you're doing ladder or when you're doing like just like a, say like a weekly race or something like that, I don't think I'd care very much. Like, really the outcome, right?
Yeah, the ladder races are totally different than the tournament races, even though we still have the win and loss record. It just feels so much different. Yeah, I don't know.
I got to be honest. I think I have trouble taking the ladder races seriously sometimes just because I'm like, it doesn't matter, whatever, who cares?
Sure, totally. Right? But why does the tournament race matter? You know what I mean? Like, what fair. More? I'm with you. I'm right there with you. But yeah, I'm trying to put this together in my own mind. Like, why should the tournament race matter that much more?
Because they do, dang it, and that's how you make your name. Get your name on that tiny little help tile in the Houlihan room and all that good stuff.
Yeah, for sure,
right?
But it's like I finish a race and people in my chat are, whether I win or loss, or hopefully had a good time, hanging out. I had a good time usually hanging out with the chat and stuff. So why does the win or loss matter so much to me? I don't know.
That's the question for every competitive thing that we've ever done, right? You know,
it's definitely a hypothetical question that I don't have the answer to because I'm still struggling with it to this day.
Totally. So like, who are the runners that you look up to, you know, in the community, like strats, you know, improvement, inspiration? Like, who are the guys you kind of tend to follow?
Mm-hmm. My two favorite runners are Matt7898 and Zelga Dasan. Those two aren't the biggest streamers or anything. I guess Matt won the SGL tournament last year, but Zelga keeps letting me down, not winning the big tournaments because I expect him to win. But I watch those two and it feels like, I don't know, the way they play the game and like the way they handle themselves and conduct themselves on their streams and the way they handle the races. It's just like the two probably that I strive most are the ones that I look up to the most for sure. I mean, there's so many people in the community that I look up to. I know I give Gamachu shit all the time, but I've had so much fun teaming with Gamma. Like we did the co-op tournament and got second place in that. Yeah. And then he was on, we were on league teams from seasons 2 through 4 and just had so much fun. I just had so much fun playing with Gamma, and he has such a good time playing the game and has just kind of like a positive attitude through it all that I kind of really envy and enjoy kind of being around. And that's why people kind of gravitate towards Gamma as well.
Gamma's a solid dude. I mean,
totally. He really is an asshole behind the scenes, but he's such an awesome dude, though. I really do look up to him. Days I look up to you for sure. I watch you play. I watch the way you handle yourself, the interviews that you do, the way you do commentary, like not even with the game. I really impressed with that and strive to like try to meet the quality of excellence that you bring. Andy, of course, because he was like the first one that I saw. Yeah, I mean, I could list everyone. Honestly, there's so many people.
It's always kind of an impossible question. It's like, name the people that you like to watch. It's like, well, the community is like good.
Yeah, there's just there's so many people, and I'm sure I'm forgetting people. But yeah, there's so many good people in the community that I really look up to and want to strive to be like.
So let's since we're talking community here, so like, what do you consider to have given you like the most amount of fulfillment in your time in the community? Like is there a win or creating the league, like helping mentors or something, mentor people?
Yeah, I've actually never done any of the mentoring, that side of the thing. So I've never mentored anyone. I always feel like, who am I to mentor someone? That's just kind of my own self-deprecation that I have. But I don't know. I think the league is probably the thing that I'm most proud of, just because I built that from like nothing. You know, it's like such a staple of the community now. Mm-hmm. And it's huge, way bigger than I ever thought. And and there's just like, honestly, there's so much that has come out of the league that I think is the reason that I'm so proud of it. Like the tournament itself, I think it brings me a lot of joy. But the fact that it brought other people together and like created friendships through the league, I'm like a proud papa. You know what I mean? I love that sort of thing. I love the idea of bringing people together and creating friendships that wouldn't have happened outside of the league. I think that's kind of pretty special to me, more so even than the tournament. But I'm proud of like the way the tournaments ran. I'm proud of, being a graphic designer, I strive on the league looking the best and having like the best restreams and the best, I don't know. I'm kind of a perfectionist when it comes to that kind of stuff. And I always I felt like we at the league challenged to do things better or bigger or unique, right? Like the main tournament always had like the reveal streams where someone plays the seed and it pops up all the names. And that's really cool. Mm-hmm. And we probably could have just copied that, but we came up with our own thing. And I thought it was really cool. Like the reveal streams for the league, I think are really cool. So yeah, just kind of everything that has to do with the league. And it's really weird to now not be a part of it, but I'm excited for its legacy, I guess.
I mean, the league, kind of what you said here. I don't want to get too deep into it because I get my own episode later. But yeah, man, the league is probably one of the biggest reasons I'm so deep into the community anymore. So like,
yeah,
thank you.
It brings people together, man. And that's the thing that I love. And I think, the podcast I feel like would probably be right under that. Only that the podcast is pretty new. But I like bringing people together, and I like humanizing people, if that makes any sense, because it's so easy to see people as text in a Discord, and you treat text in a Discord differently than you would when you have conversations with people.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. And so like the League does that because it forces you to play with other people, which this game wasn't necessarily made to be done with. Like co-op is my favorite way of playing the game. And so if I can make people do that, which is kind of secretly what the League was trying to do, then I feel like it's a win because it just humanizes us all. And I love that. I love bringing people together.
Oh man. It was so, okay. I assume that this is, I'm trying to remember if I've heard this come up in any of the other episodes here, but if it has, and you've already told this story, then, it's somebody's first podcast,
Sure.
It's somebody's first episode ever. So what gave you the idea for the League, really? Like how'd the baby kid come about?
Okay. So, here's someone else that I forgot to mention when people that you look up to. Boyne is someone I really look up to in this community. He got his start like just a little bit before I did, I think, and just like excelled right out of the gate. And the guy is just like naturally talented at this game. And he's like a pretty humble dude and, kind of soft spoken, but I don't know. I just really look up to Boyne. And he mentioned the idea of a league. And I remember, if you remember back in like the early 2019, late 2018 days, he was always trying to come up a way of scoring players better than SRL.
Right.
And trying to like come up with something. Yeah. He had like his scoring sheet that would like, because when we started, you and I started racing SRL, there was no one-on-one races. All one-on-one races were done in tournaments. Everything else was group races. So you'd ping in the Discord and you get a bunch of people. And those races were large. We'd be racing with 30 to 40 people consistently. And that felt like a small number, honestly. And so like, how do you score that? Right? Like, how do you score all these people and how do you rank them? The SRL rankings were terrible. So Boyne was always like trying to come up with a way of doing that. Eventually, Dunka created the ladder and that kind of killed those big races for the better. I think that's a positive. But Boyne always was thinking about like creating a league. I remember him talking about creating a league or doing something. And I was like, dude, let's do it. And I drew up some like basic ideas and sent him off his way. And either he was too busy or whatever. I don't remember exactly what happened, but I didn't get much of a response from him. And I kind of took it to the friends I was hanging out with. And I was like, well, what do you guys think? And they're like, yeah, let's run with it. And they helped me shape the league. I think Allison had a lot of really good feedback when I was first putting it together, because when I first put it together, it was way different than what it was. It wasn't anything like it was now. The first draft of the league was a weekly race, like a weekend race where you'd send out your teammate or two of your teammates would run or something like that. And then you'd score points based off of your guys' finishes. And then I can't even remember what it was, but it wasn't one-on-one racing. That idea was terrible, and I was glad it got nixed right away. But then it be kind of turned into kind of what it was. But yeah, that's kind of how the league came about.
Yeah, now it's this giant behemoth.
Yeah, for sure. It's way bigger than what I wanted. Again, I was just trying to come up with a way for people to play co-op together was kind of the idea.
I mean, yeah, now what are we at on? I think 3 weeks co-op in the league or something like that.
Yeah, something like that, yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. So, okay, so knowing what you know now, like, what advice would you give yourself about creating the league? Give your past self there.
I don't know. I don't think I would. It's one of those things where I don't think I'd go back and change anything, because I feel like the natural evolution of it is kind of what made it succeed. Like if I could go back and say, here, let's do how it is in season 4 from the beginning, I don't think the league would work that way with like an open and invitational. So I don't know. I don't think I'd change anything, which is weird to say because I'm no longer a part of the league. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, the league just became what it became, and it sort of outgrew me and what my goal was. I think for the positive. I think it changed into what it was no longer my league, basically. It was the community's league. So yeah, I don't think I would change or even tell myself to change anything. Just kind of roll with it.
Yeah, I think that's completely fair, because I mean, just looking at it, how it is now, and I mean, I think, what are we, like 5 days away or something from the reveal stream of what was season 5? I don't even remember what season we're on right now. But
yeah, season 5. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna find out all sorts of fun new information here. So if anybody wants to know exactly what date we're doing this, there you go.
Yeah, but when this comes out, the league reveals with his stream will have come out the day before, so everyone's going to know about the league stuff by the time we record this, or by the time this is put out. So, well,
since everybody knows that we're recording this, let's you kind of mentioned the other part of that. We'll come back to the game in a minute here, but let's talk the podcast here. Okay. So what prompted you to do this? Like, what got this going for you?
Yeah, well, I like podcasts. I listen to them all the time, mostly comedy podcasts. And I hosted my own podcast. My favorite podcast?
Yeah, your favorite comedy or something. Who should I be listening to?
Well, I listen to Comedy Bang Bang. I listen to a lot, but Comedy Bang Bang's probably my favorite with Scott Aukerman. Mm-hmm. It's like an improv, absurdist comedy sort of show where a bunch of comedians come on and play characters every week, and it's really, really funny. But yeah, that's probably my favorite. So I started doing a podcast in 2008 with the friend that I created a comic book with. And in 2008, there wasn't a lot of podcasts. Like now there's a billion podcasts to listen to.
Right.
In 2008, there wasn't. So we were like kicking things off really early. And it was a show about nothing. It was called Sidetracked. We just did an episode and put it on this feed last week. So we did it from 2008 to the beginning of 2022, excuse me. And it was just me and him bullshitting about comic books and movies and the things that we liked. And we would allow ourselves to get sidetracked, so the episodes would get long and we'd kind of just talk about whatever. Basically, it was just a way for us to stay in touch, because he lived in Maryland and I live in Washington. And we went to school together, and we had this common interest of creating a comic book together. But being across the country, we wouldn't hang out as often as we would when we were in school. So the podcast kind of came about because of that. And we did it for 14 years. Like I said, we just ended it. It kind of became a chore at the end. And so we kind of agreed, like, yeah, let's just kind of stop, because it's like we like talking to each other, but the podcast itself became work. So I wasn't looking to do any other podcasts, and with Rando, I was kind of in a weird spot with Rando where I left my team last year in the league in the middle of the season. I stepped down from the league completely at the end, and I wasn't having any fun playing the game anymore. It was just stressing me out. There's just like a lot of personal stuff that happened last year mentally that I just had to kind of close the door on. I was trying to figure out, like, what am I going to be a part of the community? Because I don't really like running seeds by themselves. I have to be racing for me to enjoy a seed for some reason, just who I am. So I'm like trying to figure out what I want to do. And I know that there's the Go Mode podcast, but the Go Mode podcast has always felt like it's for newer runners. And I've been on the show, love the guys over there. They're great. But the show always kind of felt like it was not catered to me, because I'd been in the game longer than the show had been around,
Yeah, I kind of know the feeling.
Yeah, and so I don't necessarily need to know how to kill all the bosses and stuff, and that's fine. That's what the show's purpose is. But I like having conversations with people, and that's not really happening anywhere. So I thought, why not do that here? And it's kind of popped in my head back and forth throughout the years, even when I was doing my old show, and I just never really wanted to pull the trigger. And I really had nothing going on. So I'd kind of cut out all this like crap, all this extracurricular stuff that I was doing that kind of was just like bringing me down, including the old podcast. And I needed something to do. And so I thought, let's just do it. Let's pull the trigger. So I asked a couple of friends, Dante, Gamma, and Moogle, if they would do some test shows. And it just kind of steamrolled out from there. So
yeah, what a shock. Something that you made just kind of took a life of its own. And
I mean, I have ideas. I am an idea guy. But I usually rely on everyone else to make it good. I think the league was my idea, but the reason the league succeeded wasn't necessarily because of me. It was because I had awesome people around me helping me make the league awesome. The show was kind of all on me. For the first time, honestly, in my creative life, I was doing something by myself. And so there was this fear of failure for sure. Like what would anybody listen? Would people like it? Could I do it? And I gotta tell you, Daze, I'm having so much fun with the podcast. It brings me so much joy talking with people, especially the newer people that I don't know super well. Like the Magnet Hands episode to me is still like my favorite episode from season 1, just because one, Magnet's just an awesome person to talk to, but like learning his story and learning more about who he is and why he plays the game and just his backstory, all that stuff just made it so like, I don't know. It just, to me, I like turning people into people, not just people that we chat with on Discord or even just watch, because, it's different. So it's been super fun.
I mean, the podcast has been amazing to listen to. It's like all of a sudden, it's just like even people that I kind of know, a bit, like all of a sudden it humanizes them to such an extent. Like
I wish I could take credit for it too, but it's really just people's willingness to open up and be real. And I think I really enjoy that.
So yeah, no, it's fantastic, man. I go through and listen to these when a new one drops. It's like, ooh, good times. Like I'll push all my other podcasts, the other stack. I'm like, well, that stack's getting a little bit bigger. I got this one to deal with first here.
Yeah. Yeah. But so I try to keep the conversations light and fun and interesting. So I feel like I've been doing a good job. It's fun to like end an episode or recording with someone and go like, man, that was a lot of fun. And that's how all of them have ended. So it's been pretty cool.
Dude. Yeah, man, seriously, these have been great here. So, okay, a little question then. Like, how do you think like doing the interviews, has it like changed the way you've approached the game at all, though?
I wish I could say yes. There's a little bit. The tilt question has definitely given me more perspective on things, on how everyone approaches tilt or how they handle tilt. I feel like it's helped. But you know what? The podcast isn't really about Link to the Past Randomizer, even though it's a Link to the Past Randomizer podcast. Yeah. So it really honestly hasn't changed the game that much. It's improved my attitude towards people in the community more. I feel like I'm more open to be, interactive with the community in ways that I wasn't in the past.
I kind of get what you mean. So like, okay, I guess we got to get kind of serious for a minute then.
Yeah.
So let's talk about this. So, I know there's been you've had some, especially in the past year. You mentioned you had some like difficulties and some mental challenges, all sorts of stuff like that. What do you consider was the low point? Like, what was the low point when you were doing this, like racing or admin or stuff? Like, but more importantly, how did you get out of it? Yeah.
Well, okay, so my wife kept wanting me to see a counselor for a long time. And I kept saying, no, I don't need to see a counselor. What's that going to do? As I'm struggling painfully with depression, I'm like, what's talking going to do? Then I started seeing this counselor and it honestly changed my life, like for the positive. But that doesn't mean it like instantly changed my life. Like it was definitely like an uphill battle the last year and a half as I've kind of gone through it. And so the low point was season 4. In season 4 of the league, I teamed up with Shireen and Gamachu. When I started the league, I didn't actually have a group of friends to start the league with. Like I wanted to play. That was another thing about the league, as I wanted to play with people and make friends because I didn't have a ton. I was friends like with Stogie, and that didn't turn out very good. And so my first team in season 1 was One Up and Chisame. And Chisame is not really in the community anymore. I'm not sure what he's doing.
Ages. Yeah, no idea.
And One Up is a really good guy and a really good runner, but we just never really connected. Like, that just happens. Like some people just don't fully click. But he was my partner through seasons 1, 2, and 3. And we brought in Gamma in season 2. And then we did really well that season. And then maybe it was, I can't remember, but then we ran it back in season 3. And I was talking with Gamma and we decided that it would be cool to team up with another friend. Not that we didn't like One Up, but that It's like, let's play with our friends. And again, One Up's a great guy. He did nothing to like make us mad or whatnot. We just kind of wanted to team up with a friend. We wanted to team up with Shireen, who we hang out with. We have our own Discord, and we kind of, we're friends with outside of ALTTPR. And so I had this difficult conversation with One Up about it, and I just never felt great about that conversation. He handled it well and showed no ill will, but he hasn't really been playing rando much since. So I do feel bad about that. So that kind of started things off where we kicked out One Up. I didn't feel great about it, despite the fact that we got our friend on our team. It was like, yeah, we got me, Shireen, and Gamachu. It's like the three buds. So I didn't feel great the way that went about, even though it wasn't negative. There was no negativity towards it, and One Up didn't even seem mad. So there was that kind of hanging over my head. And then I just like had a lot of personal issues in that last year where I'm just like I was trying to figure out who I was. And I turned 40 last year, and I don't know, like I'm trying to improve mentally and struggling with depression and stuff. And rando just wasn't helping. And we were in the middle of the season. I just couldn't play the game anymore competitively. And so I stepped down from the team, and Shireen and Gamachu were very gracious about it because we're friends, but that didn't feel great. Like it just didn't feel good to leave my team. But I also knew that I needed to for my own mental health, So there's that. So then I'm still kind of like randomly playing the game and just kind of not feeling great. And then the game 4 in the semifinals happened where Gamachu's game crashed when he was ahead of Sailor Nep, and she took the win. And Shireen, Gamma, and Ramond, who replaced me on the team, chose not to play game 5. And that pissed me off, like really pissed me off. This is okay. So again, I'm going to say this a million times. Sailor Nep did nothing wrong. She was within her rights to take the win. But to me, and this is me personally, again, this is my league, and kind of the idea of the league is a bit more friendly. I feel like you offer a rematch at the least, personally. Not that she had to, but that's just kind of like the spirit of what, in my mind, the league would have been. Like if that happened to me, I would offer a rematch. Again, I don't want this to come off as like me attacking Sailor Nep, because I'm not. She was within her rights.
Right.
I want to make sure that's clear. Like I don't want to make it sound like she did anything wrong. But I feel like if I was in her position, I would have offered a rematch. She didn't. That's fine. So what should you do is you go and you kick that team's ass in game 5. That's what you do, right? Like, yeah, I'm upset that you kind of got that free-ish win or whatever, but we're going to get you back in game 5. That's kind of my opinion. And they took their ball and they left. And that made me so mad because I was already struggling with how the league is on my own account. Like I want Trinex, I think, said it the best. It's supposed to be like a softball league, a softball beer league. We're all just having a good time. And sure, there's going to be a winner at the end of the day. But it should be more friendly. And I understand that everyone has a different idea of what friendly means and what competition means and what the league should be in their opinion. And that's why, for me, the league is no longer what my baby anymore. It's its own thing. But what they did really made me mad, especially as my friends. And I told them that, and we've reconciled. I don't even hold it against them. Like I'm not mad at Shireen. I'm not mad at Gamma. I'm not mad at Ramon. Like I'm way past it. But that moment, it was the breaking point. It was like all of these things and the house kind of crumbled down. And I told Sigma, I got to leave. Like I just got to leave. And I transferred ownership of everything the league was like that weekend over to him. And Sigma, being a great friend, understood and relayed the information to the admins. And I told them, I'm sorry, but I can't handle this. I can't mentally handle this. And I left. And that was the hardest part. And it took months for me to get back into like racing and being competitive. I qualified for the main tournament and I didn't play in it. And I joined the Cross Keys tournament and I'm 2-2 and it's been really tough. I'm getting back to the place where I'm excited. I'm excited for the league. I'm excited for League Season 5 and I'm hoping to play and find a team for it. But yeah, that last year was a really tough one for me.
That sounds like it. I mean, there's so much that goes into this. It's like you shouldn't, like everyone knows we shouldn't let what happens in this silly little game affect us in other ways, right? But I mean, it's hard.
It is. And you know what? I have this problem where that I've worked through in counseling that my counselors kind of helped me understand is I get upset at something. So I get upset at randomizer, and then I get upset at myself for being upset about the randomizer.
Right. You're like, why am I upset about this stupid little thing? Yeah, of course.
Exactly. Yeah. And so it just made it worse. And so like last year, it was just a piling on of all this stuff. And learning how to deal with that, like in my own life outside of randomizer, is kind of what I had to work through. And the podcast, I think, was kind of like the climbing back up that mountain of enjoyability in this game. And I'm having fun with it. Like I lost yesterday to GGW and I'm 1-6 in my last 7 races. And all I race is Cross Keys. And like right now I'm doing the ladder extravaganza stuff. I'm 1-6 in my last 7 races. And it's a really hard day. It's a really hard.
That's a bad stretch right there. Yeah.
It's really tough. But I feel like, I got friends and I've got support and family and friends or whatever that can like let me be mad. And that's another thing I've learned in counseling. It's okay to be mad. Just accept it and kind of feel it and embrace it and then let it go. Not be mad that I'm mad, if that makes sense. So,
yeah. So like when you are kind of dealing with that sort of adversity and stuff, like how do you make that call whether you want to deal with this on your own or if you want to like ask others for help? Like how does the decision kind of work there for you?
I think I'm better at working it out on my own. I think I've learned how to, as much as I'm doing a podcast and talking with people, I'm very much an introvert and I work by myself all day. So I work from home and work by myself. So I'm alone with my thoughts a lot. So I'm I'm better now than I have in the past of handling those emotions. In the past, I would just get angry and then angry that I'm angry and then depressed. And it was this like vicious cycle that would constantly bring me down. And now I've learned through counseling and through friends and stuff that I can feel angry and just let it like be there and not be angry that I'm angry. And you know what I mean? So it doesn't like multiply.
Right.
And then it sort of like naturally, do something that I enjoy. I'll watch a movie or a TV show or a funny show or something like that. Or I'll eat some ice cream or something. I don't know, something and kind of process it. So like that's kind of what I do.
Well, so that's kind of, I guess my next question then is like, what's your happy place? Kind of this, like, what's your happy place that you kind of go, you kind of zone into, and you just kind of forget about everything?
I don't know. My happy place would probably be, sound cheesy, but just like in my bed, watching my phone and like watching a dumb, funny movie, like a Dumb and Dumber or something like that lets me just like escape, or even could be like, it doesn't have to be a funny movie, but just something that allows me to like not think about the thing that made me that angry. Like, last locationing my Samaria and Swamp Big, like, you know what I mean? That is, just get away from it and kind of decompress. And then once I have decompressed, I have people that are like, that send me a message. Like Clear Mouse is an awesome example. She'll like sense that I'm struggling and send me a message on Discord and just not anything, just positivity. Hope I'm doing well, and that lifts me up.
I swear she's got like a camera in my brain. She does the same thing to me. It's crazy.
Yeah, she really is. So if you could be friends with Clear Mouse, I would recommend doing that because she's such an awesome person.
Yeah. So, okay, I guess since we're kind of I don't really know what else to get to. I guess one or two more final ones real fast here. Okay. So who would you want to collaborate with on your like next project or commentary, or what would the project be like kind of what's the next step for you, you thinking?
That's a tough one. What's weird, Days, is I don't want to collaborate with anybody right now because so much of my life has been reliance on other people So like when I created Broken Legacy, I created it with my friend because I didn't believe myself as a writer. So I was like, I can draw it and I have this story, but I don't think I can actually write it. So let me find my writer. And it was a fun collaboration and we're still working on it, but it's not quite the same. And then I did the podcast. It was like, all right, let's find a podcast guest host that can, so it's not just on me. And then I did a Kickstarter a couple years ago for a book called The Totally Unstuck Adventures of Anachronos. You can check it out. I have copies of it. If you want a digital copy, I can send it to you.
Okay, maybe, yeah.
But so I used to really be into Magic: The Gathering, and there's a commentator, he's the MTG historian. His name is Brian David Marshall. We collaborated on this book, and I met him in Portland at a Magic Grand Prix, and I showed him my artwork, and he kind of has a past in the comics. And he was like, wow, this stuff's really good. Let's collaborate on something. And I was like, yes, let's do it. And I thought this was going to be like my way into comics professionally.
Right.
And there was Brian's a great guy, but collaboration did not work. And the book was kind of dead on arrival, unfortunately. And that was kind of one of the last straws where I was like, I just need to do stuff on my own and kind of like get over this fear of failure and kind of trust myself. And so when I did the podcast, I did this one, I can do it my way and not rely on anyone else. And that's kind of what I'm hoping to do with comics. I'm not sure exactly what. And I don't even know if comics are in my future. Right now, it's focusing on me and trying to do it the way that I want to do it, if that makes any sense. I don't know if that makes me sound like a prick or not, but...
No, man, not at all. I mean, like, honestly, like, it's good to have something that is just you, like something where, you can maybe show it to other people, be like, hey, look, I did a thing. And at the end of the day, it's something that you're just happy with. Like, it's just, if it makes you happy, it's a good thing. Yeah.
That's kind of where I'm at right now. So I'll still do like comms and stuff with people. Like, I'm enjoying that. But like, even like I'm doing restreams, right? Like I've been doing restreams on my channel that have been going really well, and I'm having a lot of fun with that. And I'm literally doing it all. I'm restreaming it and tracking it and commenting it. And I have that open door policy for the restreams where people can just come in and hang out. But I'm doing it all on my own and kind of just enjoying it for what it is.
Right on. Okay, so I feel like we're tending towards the end here. So that means that we got to ask your final question just to prove that I am listening to all of your episodes here.
Yeah.
All right, but I'm since I'm taking it from someone else here, changing it just a tiny bit here. So like after interviewing all of the runners here, like all of these runners here in season 1, have you been able to change the way you deal with tilt?
No. I wish I could say I have. I don't know. Like, I love hearing people's stories and how they deal with tilt, and I like to think that I could apply that myself, but it just doesn't necessarily translate as much as I'd hoped. I'll still continue to ask that question to the guests and try to like help. It's like, so the answer is no, but I also think the answer is yes in a way that yesterday was the prime example. I lost to GGW in a race that I felt like I had every chance to win. And I was pissed because, again, this was the 6th loss out of 6 out of 7, right? Like, so it was just at the end. It's a cross keys tournament, so it's kind of a bigger deal. I've lost a bunch recently, and it just kind of hit me where I'm like, God, I cannot catch a freaking break in this damn game. And I was pissed. Like, I was super pissed. But I did that thing where we talked about, and my wife knew I was pissed, and so she kind of left me alone. And I just like laid in bed and I was watching, I don't even remember what I was watching, maybe YouTube or something. I can't remember. And I just kind of decompressed, and I was ready to quit the tournament, and I was ready to like close the doors on everything and just call it. I'm like done. I'm like, fuck this game, man. Fuck this game. That's just kept what I was thinking. And I was able to decompress, and then I played again last night. And so I was able to like feel it, be mad, and then let it go. And I did a co-op with Moogle and GGW and Jula Ninja, and we had fun and kind of forgot about it. So,
I mean, it's so rough trying to deal with all of this, you know, the emotions after, especially when something doesn't go the way that you plan it. And it just, man, like if anyone knew the answer to coming out of a race where, you know, something went wrong and, you know, you took the L and just knows how to, anyone who can just like laugh it off and just go like, everything's fine and not take it seriously. I want your secret. Can you bottle that and give it to me, please?
Yeah. I wish it was there. But hearing everyone talk about it is always, I think, kind of cathartic in its own way. So
yeah, well, totally, bud. So yeah, I guess there's a couple of other things here. Do you want to go for any other questions, or should we just like close this all up here? I didn't get to all of them.
We're a little over an hour, which is about the length of a regular episode. You tell me. You're the host in the show.
Oh, dude. All right. Well, I didn't get to everything, but I mean, I think honestly, we covered most of this. Like, there's a couple of goofy ones here. Do you want to do a couple of goofy ones real fast?
Give me the goofy one. Yeah, that's some of the goofy ones.
All right. Here's the question here. So, who is your favorite Pug Sprite user?
It's definitely not Dante.
Oh, but the next question is, why is the answer to the above question
right.
Dante?
So I forgot. Yeah. No, man, I love both Dante and Andy. I can't answer that question. They're both awesome people. So,
and then I've got, but why male models?
That's the Zoolander question. Have you seen Zoolander?
Oh, God. Yeah. Okay. Yep. There it is. There it is. Okay. Got it. I was like, I saw that question. I'm just trying to figure out like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
Is it raining right now?
It is not. Even though the fact I live in Washington, I don't live in Western Washington. I live in Eastern Washington. Okay. It doesn't rain as much here. And in fact, it doesn't rain as much in Seattle as people think. That's kind of a misconception. It's just constantly gray. That's the thing. It's always gray there.
It kind of reminds me of England there. I used to live there when I was a kid, and everybody's like, oh, it rains all the time. It's like, no, it's just cloudy.
Yes, it's cloudy all the time. It was super depressing living in Western Washington. That's one of the reasons I had to leave. So much gray.
Okay, last one. What ingredients are part of the perfect burrito?
You got to have a good rice. You can either have like a cilantro or Spanish rice. I'd probably prefer a Spanish rice. Got to have refried beans. My preferred meat would probably be carne asada. A lengua is really good too, though. So if you want to go with a little cow tongue, I wouldn't mind that. I'm not really big into like a chunky pico de gallo salsa. I like more of like a medium, like a salsa. It's not as chunky. I'm also not into guac or sour cream, so I'm not putting either one of those on my burrito. But you gotta have a good cheese blend. And the local shop that I have that has this chipotle sauce that is to die for. That's probably my favorite. And you gotta have a nice homemade burrito too, or tortilla. Can't have one of the store boughts.
Oh, dude, I'm sitting here now, like I'm like hearing about American food back home.
Oh yeah, I bet.
Just dying.
When was the last time you had a burrito, Days?
Oh well, I get burritos all the time out here, but they're good for what they are.
Yeah.
You know, you got to take it for what it is. There, if you're expecting stuff that I had in like college and stuff like that, nah, man, that's not gonna be it. But But yeah, I'm probably going to go, well, I don't know, see what happens here in a couple of minutes. I might go get one for lunch.
Yeah. I just want to thank Dazed for volunteering to come on here and host the show for me and do this. This is not something I ever imagined doing when doing this podcast. So, shout outs to Dazed for stepping up and the community for requesting it. I feel bad that we didn't answer all the questions, so I'm going to breeze through some of the last couple questions that I didn't get the answer and just give some quick one word answers. Someone asked if you could go back in time and watch any movie in the theater during its year of release, which movie would it be? The answer was The Matrix, but actually I was able to see The Matrix in the theater, the first one, right before the latest one came out. They were showing it again in the movie theaters. So I was able to go back and watch that. That was awesome. That was a great experience. Probably like the first Star Wars. That'd be cool. You have any pre-race rituals that you always do? I do not. I just load up the game and make sure I use the bathroom. That's about it. If money, resources were no object, what would you want to do as your next project? This is it. This is the project that I want to work on the most. So I'm loving the podcast, having fun with it. What is your biggest ALTTPR accomplishment? Probably a combination. In season 2, I think we went with Team Kappa and finished in second place. Lost to Team Awesome that year, I believe. And Gam and I finished in second place in the casual rando co-op 80 tournament as well that year. We lost to Hitsu and Thalane, I think. So those were the two big ones. If there was any other game you could speedrun / randomize, what would it be? I don't know. I have no idea about that. I think ALTTP is the best game to randomize. It's like almost like it was built for it. So I don't play a ton of video games. So I'm good with this one. And then the last question, how much have you thought about monetizing things in the past, either the previous things like League or holding your own money prize tournament or something else? The hardest part for me is monetizing stuff. Like I have lots of ideas. I'm an artist, so I do a lot of that, and I don't know how to make money off of any of it. I wish that I was able to monetize stuff, like the things that I come up with, but I'm just not good at it. I'm not good at asking people for money. I'm not good at even valuing the work that I do that could create income. I'm just not good at it. I was always jealous of the Penny Arcade guys because they were kind of in the same shoes as I was they're artists and writers and stuff. And then they got a business manager, kind of exploded from there. And he was able to take Penny Arcade from just like a lowly webcomic into like the giant that they became. So yeah, I don't know. I wish I could, but I just don't have that in me. Thanks everyone for asking questions. Again, I wasn't sure if I was going to do this at all. It's weird putting the spotlight on myself. I love putting the spotlight on everyone else. Putting it on myself, I'm not really used to. So yeah, just thank you everyone for asking questions, and thanks again to Dazed for volunteering to host this thing. Can't wait for his episode to come out in a few weeks. Again, really appreciate it. Subscribe to the podcast wherever you can, Apple or Spotify or Stitcher or wherever. If you can leave us a review, that would be great. Join the Discord, 216pod.com has all the info. Got the fearagent store up and running. We've got stickers now over there. We've got the t-shirts. We've got the 216 t-shirt. I made my tracker icons available for anyone that wants to use them on their trackers, which is in the Discord as well. Again, 216pod.com. Check it out. And we'll be back next week to kick off season 3 with wall kicks. See you then.